This is the war in which our fighting men clash with the enemies of democracy on a dozen far fronts. And here is the war in which we all fight, the war of production. In spite of our vast industrial experience, this new kind of production for war presents more and greater problems than our nation has ever had to solve. Aluminum for 50,000 planes a year, tires for 1 million fighting vehicles, clothes for 10 million soldiers, and powder for their rifles and machine guns. Powder for torpedoes, powder for bombs, for more and more and yet more bombs. 100-octane gasoline and special liquids to cool the engines of the best fighters in the sky. These are big problems, so big that to solve them will take the best efforts of all of us, the whole 130 million of us, our leaders, our production experts, our designers, our workmen, our miners, our farmers. Oh yes, we're depending on our farmers. Their part in this war is second to none. Of course, everyone knows that farmers grow our food, but important as food is, that's not all they're doing. Their job is even bigger than that. Consider what the farmers of just one part of our country are doing, the farmers of the South. These southern farmers are playing a vital part in keeping our P-40s in the sky, filling our arsenals with ammunition, helping speed the transport of war materials, and supplying thousands of tons of much-needed scrap to our steel mills. Yes, indeed, the farmer's job in this war is a big one. This man is not a farmer, but he knows how important they are to the war effort.
No, I'm not a farmer. I'm a specialist in explosives, developing new methods of producing gun cotton. Now, strangely enough, I've never seen cotton growing. Yet we use about 6 pounds of cotton linters in every 10 pounds of gunpowder. Linters, you know, is the cotton that's left on the seeds after it is ginned. Explosives and plastics will take the cotton linters from this year's entire crop of 14 million bales. I guess it takes a lot of work to grow 14 million bales of cotton.
Yes, a lot of work. And to grow a crop of about 14 million bales takes 24 million acres of land, the work of about 2 million southern farmers. Plenty of work. Hard work for men, women, and children all through the hot summer months. And hard work for the land, too. Work which could eventually wear it out. But our farmers have learned to put vitally needed chemicals back into the soil. Now, however, the nitrogen in chemical fertilizers is also needed for explosives. So cover crops of legumes are helping do the job. And we can be sure that each year the land will be as good as before, maybe even better. And that we can continue to produce enough cotton to meet the war needs of ourselves and our allies. we're growing better cotton, too. More and more of it is the long staple variety, which means that each fiber is longer and that threads made from it will be stronger and lighter. This construction equipment helping to drive the strategic Alaskan highway through to completion at 50 below zero. And these air cobras spitting lead and explosive shells at 400 miles an hour, both owe something of their performance to the farmer. How come? Well, let this man tell you how come.
Antifreeze and the special fluids used in our liquid-cooled aircraft engines have a glycerin base, most of which was derived from oils that we used to get from the East Indies. Now, like with rubber, we've had to find a substitute. Only this was easier, because we can use cottonseed and peanut oil in place of many of these other oils and so release them for war products. Maybe we can't exactly say that we're going to lick Hitler with peanuts, but they're going to help.
Now that peanuts are more than just something we eat at baseball games, we're going to need more of them. And we're getting more of them. Our farmers are now harvesting about 2.5 million more acres of peanuts than before the war. Throughout the South, wherever the soil is suitable, peanuts are stacked like this for drying during early fall, from Virginia to Texas. Everyone pitches in to get the crop harvested. Women folks drive tractors. The kids do what they can. And when threshing starts, those goobers really begin to pile up. Of course, to get this crop planted and harvested takes real planning and cooperation. Whole communities get together to share new machinery. Machines which just have to be shared, as there aren't enough to go around. Steel that used to go into farm machinery is now being made into ships and tanks. Ships and tanks and guns that we're using to put the squeeze on Hitler and Hirohito, just like we're putting the squeeze on Mr. Goober to get that valuable oil. After the oil is out, what's left is made into meal, which is used to help feed the extra livestock we're raising these days. Nothing wasted. And that oil? Here it is, and it's one of the best cooking oils known. And there's still some peanuts left for those who like to munch them at the movies. And of course, plenty left to supply peanut butter to the Army, because the Army considers it a vital food, especially for men in foreign fields. So you see, this and every other farmer with his field of peanuts is really a defense industry. Another of the farmer's important jobs is that of easing the transportation problem, of helping trains, like this, carry more and more of the materials of war. But let's hear from an expert on this subject.
Oh, well, now, I'm not really an expert on transportation, but I do feel that we women folks can do a lot to help by just growing and canning enough for our own families for an entire year. That means things don't have to be shipped to us. That makes it easier for the Army to get the materials they need to fight with. And besides, that saves the tin cans for the city folks who just naturally can't grow and can things for themselves. And you know, I always feel there's more downright goodness to the things I put up myself.
That's the Southern farmer's job in the war. Food and scrap, oils and gunpowder, bombs and clothing. All war necessities depending on the fields of cotton and peanuts, the gardens and pastures, the tractors and mules, and depending on the men and women. Work which may not seem as exciting as building 30-ton tanks or 4-motored bombers. Yet even in that, the building of 4-motored bombers, our farmers have a part. These young men, your sons, and the sons of your neighbors in Maine and Minnesota and Oklahoma, are about to take off on a bombing raid over Hitler's Europe, about to take off in planes that every farmer in America has helped to build. From your fields come the explosives in these bombs, the ammunition for these guns, the insulation from miles of wires, the plastics and the instruments and gadgets facing the pilot, oils and fabrics and paints, the very fields of America and the heart of her hills, forged by the skill of her workmen into weapons of freedom. And if we, from day to day, do our jobs as well as those who fight, the cause of freedom for all men is well served.